You know, there is this number I saw recently, 92%. And it really stopped me in my tracks.
92%. What is that measuring exactly?
It's the amount of people who call themselves perfectionists, who've never finished the single project that matters most to them.
Oh, wow. I mean, that is just a heavy reality to sit with.
It really is. And I think that's why we needed to do this deep dive today, because our mission here is to unpack this whole trap and really figure out how you, the person listening right now, how you can finally just hit done.
Mm.
Because I think you know exactly what that reality looks like.
Yeah, we all do. It's that one unsent email, right?
Yeah.
Just sitting in your draft folder for like 3 years.
Yes, or it's the resume you have rewritten 15 times
Hmm.
because the spacing on the page just didn't feel quite right.
Exactly. It's just sitting there trapping all of that human potential behind this invisible wall of, endless tweaking.
Okay, let's unpack this because people so often treat being perfect like it's a badge of honor. Like, I just have really high standards.
Right, like it's proof that they care more than anyone else.
Yeah. But from what we are looking at today, it's not like having a high-end sports car. It's like having that amazing $1 million car, but being so utterly terrified of getting a tiny scratch on the paint that you never even drive it out of the garage.
Which completely defeats the purpose of having the car at all. It just sits there doing nothing for anyone.
Exactly. But before anyone listening starts beating themselves up for that 3-year-old draft, we need to understand something basic. This is not a character flaw.
Not at all. It is a deeply wired body response. It's pure fear.
Wait, a fear response, like a physical reaction to a typo.
Exactly that. The fear of making a flawed piece of work turns on the exact same alarm bells in your brain as physical danger.
Are you serious?
I am.
Yeah.
There's a specific part of your brain that acts as an error radar. In a normal state, it just helps you notice if you, say, left the stove on.
Right. Totally helpful.
But in the mind of someone facing a big project, this region goes into absolute overdrive. It hijacks your nervous system.
So what does this all mean? My nervous system is literally treating a missing comma in a work email like a tiger standing in the doorway.
That is not a joke. Your brain is treating it exactly like a wild animal. If we look back at human history, it makes total sense.
How so?
Well, to our ancient ancestors, an imperfect result wasn't just a minor thing. It felt like a direct threat to their standing in the tribe. Historically, if you made a mistake and the group judged you, you could be cast out.
Oh, wow. And being cast out meant you were alone in the wild.
Right, which meant death.
That puts such a wild spin on that inner critic voice. It's not trying to torture you. It genuinely thinks it is saving your life.
Precisely. That voice scanning for flaws is just a misguided bodyguard. It believes that if it catches the mistake first, it can prevent the shame of being caught by the tribe.
So it keeps you safe.
Exactly. Your body just hasn't caught up to the fact that sending a rough draft of a report won't result in you starving in the cold.
What's fascinating is how we translate that survival instinct today. We end up treating mistakes as threats to our identity instead of just data.
And that is the exact line between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Being a perfectionist is really just a desperate attempt to control the unknown.
By controlling the outcome, right?
Yes. If you have a fixed mindset, your brain says, if this work is flawed, then I am flawed. But a growth mindset treats a mistake as neutral info. It just tells you how to adjust your aim for the next time.
Which explains why our brains are so incredibly good at hiding this from us. We don't even realize we are doing it half the time.
We just tell ourselves we are being careful. It is the ultimate camouflage, mostly because society actively rewards it.
Oh, absolutely. We look at a coworker who is endlessly fixing a slide deck at 9 at night, and we call them hardworking.
We praise them for caring so much. And that makes the whole thing so dangerous it hides in plain sight. It often shows up as what some call productive hiding.
Oh, I am painfully familiar with this one. This is when you spend, like, 3 hours sorting out your calendar and cleaning up your desktop folders instead of writing the hard first draft.
It is a brilliant trap your brain sets for you. You stay busy with low-stress tasks because it gives you the feeling of progress.
But it carries zero risk.
Exactly. No one is going to judge your sorted folders. And this partners perfectly with modern tech. Think about how we check our phones.
Oh, the quick reward trap.
Yes. When you are staring down a difficult, unfinished project, checking your phone gives you an instant, unearned reward. It gives you the hit of joy that your hard project is denying you.
So you just bounce between cleaning your desk and scrolling online calling it prep work, while the actual car stays in the garage.
Precisely.
But let me ask you this, because there is this common myth that this is only a problem for high achievers, the hyper-organized type A folks. Is that actually true?
That is one of the biggest myths out there. This shows up across every type of person, every income bracket, and every field. Often, it hides behind delaying things.
Putting things off.
Yeah. From the outside, putting things off just looks like laziness or not caring. But underneath that laziness is frequently pure, paralyzing fear.
It's wild how this changes depending on where you are in life, too. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at a 22-year-old who agonizes for an hour over a photo caption.
Right. And then deletes the whole post because it didn't get enough likes in 10 minutes.
Yes. Technically, they are battling the exact same brain demon as a 40-year-old boss who's been sitting on a strategy report for a month. But the stakes feel completely different.
They feel different because the context changes. In your 20s, this is heavily tied to constant comparison and figuring out who you are.
Because your identity is still forming.
Right. So every single unfinished project or rejected application feels like a permanent verdict on your value as a human being.
And then you hit that late 20s to mid-30s range,
Mhm.
and the context shifts entirely toward timelines.
The pressure just compounds. You have career goals, money pressures, relationship milestones, they all converge at once.
So it takes the form of feeling like you have to have it all perfectly sorted out.
Yes. If your life doesn't look like the flawless timeline you imagined, the inner pressure is massive. But it's crucial to remember your mind isn't broken here.
It's just responding to real social pressure.
Exactly, just without having built the right coping tools yet.
Which brings us to the danger zone, the mid-30s to mid-40s bracket, where these habits really start to cement themselves.
This is where the over-checking, the over-editing, they stop being just a phase and become a built-in personality trait.
They've been running quietly in the background for a decade.
Right, and it creates a chronic baseline of always being busy and anxious that people just accept as their normal life.
And then 45 and older. I noticed a quiet fear in this age group that I found really sad. It's this deep dread that is simply too late to change.
That their brain is just hardwired to be this way forever.
Yeah, is that true?
It is sad, but the brain science on this is actually incredibly hopeful. The brain remains flexible, meaning it can physically change at every single age.
So it's never a life sentence.
Never. In fact, some of the most powerful mindset shifts happen later in life, because that's often when the why behind your work becomes clearer.
You start caring less about the tribe's judgment and more about the actual impact you want to leave behind.
Exactly. You start looking at the bigger picture.
Okay, so if being perfect doesn't guarantee success, and we know it's really just masking this ancient fear of being cast out, what does actual success look like?
Well, the most prolific creators in history, the absolute masters of their crafts, were not aiming for perfect. They were entirely comfortable producing massive amounts of average work.
Hold on. Average work. I have to push back on this because if I'm listening to this right now, I probably pride myself on high quality.
Of course you do.
So telling me to aim for average feels like career suicide. I can't just hand a messy pitch deck to my boss and say, well, at least I finished it.
It sounds terrifying, I know, but we have to redefine what average means here. It doesn't mean being careless or sloppy.
Okay, then what does it mean?
It means allowing your baseline, unpolished effort to be put out into the world. You have to realize that what you consider average is usually incredibly high quality to everyone else.
Oh, because our own standard is so warped.
Exactly. The point is that skill grows through repetition and finishing things, not by agonizing over a single piece forever.
It's exactly like reps in a gym. You don't get stronger by standing in front of the mirror just picturing the absolute perfect bicep curl.
No, you get stronger by actually lifting the weight.
Even if your form wobbles a tiny bit on the last few reps, you just have to do the reps.
That's it. You have to put the miles on the car.
And there's a real-world story that perfectly shows this paralysis versus volume. Let's talk about Michael.
Oh, Michael's story is a classic.
It really is. Michael works in marketing, and he sat on a portfolio website for 2 whole years. 2 years of his life.
Just endless tweaking.
Yes. Every time he opened his laptop, he would stare at the exact shades of the background colors. He'd move a text box a tiny bit to the left and then a tiny bit to the right.
And probably back again the next day.
Exactly. Finally, a friend stepped in and asked him a very simple question. What are you actually afraid will happen if you publish this today?
Which forces you to name the actual fear, pulling it out of the panic center and into the logical brain.
Right. Michael realized he wasn't trying to make a good website. He was terrified people would look at his work and realize he wasn't actually talented.
He was terrified of being found out as a fraud.
So he set a hard deadline for the following weekend. He allowed himself exactly 2 rounds of edits, no more. And he hit publish.
Good for him.
He even put a little note at the bottom saying, "This is a living project and will keep improving." Do you know what happened?
Well, let me guess the world didn't end.
Better than that. Within a month, he had 2 new client emails directly from that unfinished, imperfect website.
That's just amazing.
2 years of endlessly revising colors produced 0 income and massive stress. 1 month of an imperfect, published site produced actual business.
And making that leap from endlessly hiding the work to actually publishing it requires a massive amount of mental flexibility.
Which brings up something I really wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
We keep talking about this as a mental hurdle, right? A mindset issue. But I've noticed on days when I am running on 4 hours of sleep, my inner critic is 10 times louder. I will literally obsess over the tone of a 3-sentence message for 20 minutes.
Oh, I've been there.
Is there a physical side to this, or is that just me?
It is absolutely not just you. Your daily health habits are quietly fueling this trap by literally destroying your brain's ability to be flexible.
Really? How does that work?
Let's look at your sleep example. When you don't sleep, your logical reasoning part of the brain just powers down.
It just goes offline.
Basically, yes. It physically lacks the fuel to calmly reframe a mistake. So your alarm center takes the wheel. Suddenly, a poorly worded message feels like a huge threat.
Wow. So by not sleeping, I am chemically removing my ability to say, it's not a big deal.
Exactly, and then you add coffee to the mix.
Oh no, not the coffee.
Excess late-day caffeine spikes your nervous energy. That anxiety is the raw fuel for checking behaviors.
So you're chemically inducing the jitters.
Right, which makes you check the email for typos for the 20th time just to burn off the nervous energy.
That makes total sense. What about food?
Skipping meals is huge. Body science is very clear that stable blood sugar is needed for emotional balance.
So if I work straight through lunch,
Your blood sugar drops. Your brain interprets that drop as a survival threat, which cranks up the very panic, keeping you stuck in revision mode.
so it thinks I'm starving, and suddenly the font choice is life or death.
Exactly. Even mild thirst makes you cranky and less focused.
So simply drinking a glass of water and eating a sandwich can actively fight the inner critic.
They physically raise the threshold at which the panic takes over. When your body is fueled, your logical brain has the strength to tell the inner critic to quiet down.
Okay, so now we know that our biology, our ancient history, and even our coffee intake are all conspiring against us. How do we actually break this cycle?
The overarching goal here is shifting your inner voice from a place of shame to a place of curiosity.
Curiosity, I like that.
And the first practical step to get there is to name the standard out loud before you even begin the work.
Right. Ask yourself, what makes this good enough to release, not what makes this flawless?
Exactly. Just defining the finish line stops it from being a moving, endless target.
The second step is setting a done deadline, which is completely separate from a start deadline.
Yes. A perfectionist mind will obsess over when to start, but without a hard stopping point, it will polish forever. You have to pick a date and time when the work leaves your hands.
No matter how you feel about it in that moment.
Right.
Then there's the 80% rule. This is wild. The idea is that the last 20% of fixing a task takes way too much time, and it rarely improves the outcome enough to justify it.
It's the law of diminishing returns.
I like to think of it like sanding a wooden dining table. The first hour of sanding removes all the splinters and makes it totally functional.
It does the job.
Right. The next 3 hours of micro-polishing might make it 2% smoother, but nobody eating dinner on that table is ever going to notice the difference. You were just wasting time.
That is a perfect way to look at it. There's a story about David, a small business owner who was stuck in that 20% trap.
What was he doing?
He was spending 3 agonizing hours perfecting a single social media post for his business.
3 hours for one post.
Every single time. He finally decided to cut his creation time down to strictly 30 minutes, shipping the content at roughly 80% perfect.
And what was the result?
His posting volume tripled naturally, and his views, which had been totally flat for a year, started steadily climbing.
Because he was actually showing up.
Yes. The algorithm and his audience rewarded consistent, messy content over occasional, flawlessly polished content every single time.
But shipping at 80% requires you to get comfortable with the idea that someone might spot a flaw.
It does. Which brings us to the next step, separating identity from output.
This is a tough one.
It is. When a mistake inevitably happens, you have to practice a shift in how you talk to yourself. Instead of saying, I am not good enough, you have to train yourself to say, this specific project didn't go how I wanted.
It retrains the brain to treat errors as single events, not character verdicts.
Exactly. And to support that, you need to limit your revision rounds in advance. Decide before you start, I will review this document twice, and then I send it.
Because unlimited revision rounds are where the fear breeds.
Yes, they are the trap.
But here's where it gets genuinely tricky. What if I am doing something where I genuinely need to know my work isn't terrible?
Give me an example.
Like if I'm designing a bridge or even just writing a major keynote speech, I can't just release garbage, close my eyes, and cheer. I need feedback.
And that raises a crucial point. Lowering your standard isn't the goal. The goal is changing your relationship with the gap between your standard and your current result.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
There is a massive difference between seeking constant checking, asking 5 different coworkers to read an email before you send it, which actually destroys your confidence over time, and scheduling a single time for feedback.
Ah, I see.
Plan one clear feedback moment. It gives your mind a contained, safe outlet for review.
Got it. So it's contained, not compulsive. But what if the fear is just totally overwhelming, like you physically freeze up?
If you really want to tackle the root fear, you have to expose yourself to it in a safe way. You deliberately send a casual text message with a typo in it.
On purpose.
On purpose. You post a photo that isn't perfectly lit. You actively build your mental muscle to sit with the awkwardness of being imperfect without rushing to fix it.
I love that, the intentional typo. Just letting it sit there and realizing the world doesn't end.
It is deeply freeing.
And that brings to mind this story about Jennifer, which I think perfectly wraps up everything we have talked about today. She's a nurse who had a dream to teach stress classes to new parents.
A very noble and necessary goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She had years of clinical practice. She knew her stuff. But for over a year, she did nothing but wait.
What was she waiting for?
She told herself she needed to get 3 more degrees first. She spent months mocking up a perfectly polished website and drafting a flawless 50-page business plan.
The classic trap. Building the garage instead of driving the car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Until a coworker casually mentioned they had started a simple email newsletter using a free tool online. So Jennifer decided to just try it, despite her terror.
She just went for it.
She wrote one honest, messy, deeply helpful article about parental stress, and she emailed it to 12 friends. She expected nothing.
And what happened?
Almost instantly, several people replied saying they were crying reading it because they were feeling exactly the stress she described. One asked to share it with her sister. Another asked if you did private sessions.
What's so beautiful about Jennifer's story is the stark realization she had afterward. The perfect version of her project, the one she protected in her head and polished in private for an entire year, helped absolutely no one.
No one at all.
But the messy, rough version she actually had the courage to hit send on helped people on day one.
It's so incredibly powerful. And as we wrap up our deep dive today, that is really the core takeaway we want you to leave with.
Perfectionism is not a badge of honor.
It is not simply having high standards. It is having high standards paired with harsh, punishing self-judgment and an ancient fear of being cast out.
The goal for you, listening to this, is to consciously shift your focus toward volume, toward finishing things.
Toward treating your errors as valuable data points that help you grow, rather than huge threats to your identity.
And please don't forget the physical side of this equation. Take care of the simple daily health habits. Eat a real meal, drink some water, and get some sleep.
A strong, well-rested body builds a logical brain that is actually capable of flexible thinking, of finally letting things be good enough.
It physically lowers the threshold for panic. It makes the journey from perfect to done so much smoother.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked about the 80% rule and how that last 20% of polishing takes up a massive amount of your time.
Way too much time.
I want you to calculate the literal time cost of this trap. Think about all the hours you have spent over the last year on that final 20% of tweaking, changing the font, rewriting a perfectly fine sentence, adjusting the margins on a slide deck, things that literally no one else even notices.
It adds up fast.
If you took all those lost hours and instead invested that time into starting completely new projects, learning a new skill, or just resting, how radically different would your life and your career look 1 year from today?
It's a staggering thought. The time cost is massive.
It really is. So it's time to open the garage. Stop worrying about scratching the paint. Take the car out, put some miles on it, and let it do exactly what it was built to do.
These thoughts, these questions, they don't have to stop here. Geeks Mindset has many more podcasts and videos just like this one. Subscribe to the channel and explore other episodes. They all flow the same thoughtful way. If this podcast felt genuinely useful to you, share it with even one person in your life. That one share can bring a real change in someone's life, and it helps Geeks Mindset reach more people who truly need this. If this brought you real value, look for the join button right next to the Geeks Mindset logo below this video. Click it and become a member of the Mindset Support Circle. Your support helps honest mindset awareness reach thousands who are silently struggling. Geeks Mindset moves forward because of you. Thank you so much from the heart for being here.